Hello everyone! We get to use the correct audio settings this time and not last week's weird-ish audio settings. Um, so, last time we just finished up 2013. We got all the way through Dylan's Rolling Western The Last Ranger, which put 2013 at a 6.69. Looking at our results to date, a pretty high point.
Yeah, definitely some of the excesses of the preceding years of services and stuff like that have just dropped out there, and some good games at the top end as well.
Yes,
Help
definitely.
get you there, but yeah, I think that was a pretty big factor in that.
Yes. A lot of threes and fours, but a lot of nines. So, let's move on to 2014, where we are going to talk about the six retail Wii U games that came out. Not just
Yeah, it's
published
kind
by
of amazing.
Nintendo, the six.
It's remarkable, to be honest, when you think of it. I mean, you remember it being quiet, but I guess with 3DS or just other stuff going on, it disguises just
Yes,
how.
I mean,
you
you
know.
look at this release lineup, and the story really tells itself.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, look, there's a high batting average here, but
Yes.
but you're still not going to score that many runs with this few plate appearances to keep the analogy going.
All right. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well established for RFL listeners that this is a favourite of mine. I think it improves on the previous DKC returns with the high definition graphics, more of a kind of flourish, more spectacle. And I think also the music with it was good before with those Yamamoto, the Metro Prime
Yep.
composer, kind of doing all those like reduxes of DKC themes, and there's some more reduxes of DKC, in particular like DKC 2 stuff coming back here and there, which is kind of appropriate, I guess. But with Wise coming back, and some of this, I mean, there's just a few really great ones. I love Windmill Hills is just pure joy, and was it the Swamp one,
Mm-hmm.
the Busted Bayou? Like, oh, that is incredible. The sax solo when it kicks in, it's just wonderful. So it's not quite a 10, I wouldn't say. I think obviously somewhat because maybe it's not like many leaps and bounds better than DKC Returns. It's a good sized incrementally kind of better, but not but still probably incrementally better. And there's still a few nits to pick about bosses going on too
Yes.
long in retro style. And some worlds have like maybe a few too many levels that are kind of similar, like which is something the DKC Returns had an issue with as well. But a 9 for me, yeah, pretty solidly.
Okay. A production note. So the Wii U comes out in 2012, and in Europe, two games. New Super Mario Bros. U. The gamepad is used for touching blocks. Nintendo Land, the
Yeah,
gamepad is
boost
used.
mode.
Yes, gamepad is used for pretty much everything in Nintendo Land. It gets 2013, and you've got a variety of games ranging from it helps with the control scheme to it's instrumental in the gameplay to it's a menu to off TV play to off TV
Mm.
play to off TV play to you draw on it, and now we have reached the it's black.
Yeah,
We
it's
have reached
pretty
the
much.
we can't figure out anything. Let's
Yeah,
just
we
turn that
pretty
off.
the horn honking in our
Yes,
next game here. I mean, that's big.
yes, we've really truly this year reached the Wii U gamepad does nothing. None of these retail games have an interesting use at all.
Yeah, just off TV, which is I
It's
appreciated
useful
it,
for you, yeah, but
but yeah, in terms of the gameplay stuff, which again, I mean, it's not like they really tried to sell it with off TV play that hard. To
yes.
be honest, I don't know whether maybe they pushed that feature a bit more in Japan, where it like might be considered to be more useful because of the lack of
They
like
didn't really.
multiple. Yeah, but I mean, it's. I don't recall that being a particularly
Yes.
sort of pushed feature, to be
They
honest.
were only they were only pushing the one good unanimously good thing they had, which was we have a fuck ton of really great games. But it turns out a fuck ton of really great Nintendo games was not enough to sell a Nintendo console.
Not under these circumstances, no.
Not this console. Mario Kart 8, with
Yeah.
its DLC, but without the refined battle mode from Deluxe.
Yeah, you remember what was in this version and what was not.
So the battle mode is the primary thing that was not.
Yeah,
They
had a sort of half-assed one, didn't they?
Yes, it was
wasn't
really
like
bad. Everyone hated it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was in this? So because this also includes patches, this includes 200cc.
Yep.
This is free online. This is all of the launch tracks and then the extra tracks. This is enormously long loading times.
True.
Which is also a thing from this year, except for the Bayonetta games.
That's a fair point. No, I mean, especially taking it with because the DLC I think was really quite strong.
Yes.
Especially bringing F-Zero into it is going to score points with me. But Animal Crossing, the music, the kind of slightly more kind of adventurous type theming, Zelda, other franchises, but also just the other kind of the ones that weren't like another franchise, but just kind of felt a bit more different than some of the other ones. And the game in general, looks great, plays really well. 200cc is a lot of fun.
Yes.
it does feel like it's too fast, but that's what makes it great in a lot of ways for me. It may be not something you do like all the time, but it's pretty great to have it once they did put it in. So I think even though what they tried to pass off as the battle mode was clearly not fit for purpose, and that is a major blemish, I'd still give this a 9. It's still a very, very as obviously, we got a little bit further when it got to Switch, but this for me was just the best at the time Mario Kart experience I'd had, and so it's that is a lot of fun. So I can't really score it lower for me.
All right, this next one's going to be really complicated considering the DLC.
Oh yeah, I
Warriors
did not have. I'm not sure if I had any of the DLC for this, but I did end up like getting the 3DS version like really cheap, so that had some of the DLC in that.
So here's the release structure of this game, and then I will say what DLC we are counting. So there's the base game, which is already like fucking 300 hours of content.
It's true. If you want to get into those maps, like there's plenty to do.
Then they released a Season 1 pass that had a bunch of really cool DLC characters in it with missions and maps. Then they released the 3DS game, which if you bought it, you got a code that you could put into the Wii U version to get Linkle, King of Red Lions, and why am I blanking on not Zelda from Wind Waker? Her name.
Oh, yeah, Tetra.
Tetra, yes, and you can get Tetra. And
I believe I did this.
Yes.
I do believe I did this.
So that code was never, I don't believe it was ever sold standalone. That was only if you bought the 3DS game, you could get the 3DS game's new characters in the Wii U version. And then, for the 3DS version, they sold a Season Pass 2 with again as much content as that first Season Pass, which each Season Pass was basically 150 hours of content minimum. And that Season Pass was cross-buy in a weird way, where if you bought the 3DS, you did get it for Wii U also. So for this, we are considering the base game, the 2 Season Passes, but not the 3DS content.
Yeah, tricky. I mean,
I get confusing they ever got.
I did play the game a lot. I think that was some of the reason I did jump on the DLC. It's just like I've played this an enormous amount, and I have not exhausted it. So I don't know whether I need to kind of to get DLC at this point anyway. And then eventually, I guess it just the 3DS version was like got really cheap quite fast over here, at least if you were kind of paid attention.
It did not run well on base 3DS at all. We'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like really if you wanted to play it, and I had a new 3DS, but I imagine it did affect its kind of, popularity, that, it was only really new 3DS owners need apply and actually be satisfied with the purchase. So probably helped drive the price. That price. Okay, well, I played it off TV. But you kind of like the idea of a pure portable and just seeing the new stuff and all that. But originally, I enjoyed it quite a lot. It's tough to. I think it's either a 7 or an 8. I'm just trying to sort of balance.
Do you want me to break down what was in the DLC?
You may as well, just as a refresher.
So this is what's in Season Pass 1. You have the Master Quest Pack, which includes a new arc of story mode where you play as the villain Sia, a couple new costumes, the ability for Link to use Epona as a weapon, and a new map. Then they added the Twilight Princess pack, which was Twilight Midna, a new weapon, 2 new costumes, and a new map. And then they had the Majora's Mask pack, which was playable Tingle, playable young Link who could become Fierce Deity.
Yeah.
Yes. 3 more costumes, and then another map. And then, also in that season pass, was a boss challenge mode and Ganon's Fury as an additional new game mode. And that was all just in Season Pass 1.
Yeah.
Season Pass 2 had Marin, Toon Zelda, Ravio, and Yuga as playable characters.
Yes. I mean, I love the deep cuts there.
And then playable weapons did not contain DLC maps.
Yeah, I think it's right on the borderline for me. I think I'm going to go with a 7, even though I think there's an argument to go higher. We may go higher for a subsequent version of this game.
Which one? I can't guess. There are 2 more. But yes, no, this is very, very good game.
My introduction to Warriors, so and then I went on to Fire Emblem from there.
Bayonetta 1 on Wii U.
Yeah, so I did play this back when it was new, on the 360. I played the demo on PS3 because that's what I had at the time, and it was like, nope. No,
not that version.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm sure I've told this on RFM before. It's just like all those, times I'd heard, like of the podcast talking about the early games of the HD generation that kind of passed me by because I didn't get a PS3 until 2009. And it, like about screen tearing. So, this is it. This is what they were talking about. Like,
yes.
Yeah, it was rough. But I did play it first though. I got Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2. And I thought I'll play the first one and then play the second one. And I kind of, I think what I did is I played the first one on a kind of middle difficulty. And then having done that, based on sort of the reviews as well, with the second one, I played on the higher available difficulty because apparently it wasn't that hard. And it just seemed like that would be a kind of a good progression, having just played, one game of a very similar game in many ways from to completion. So yeah, this is very good. I mean, I guess I'll probably talk about these together because it does kind of influence how I'd score them. The original Bayonetta, I think maybe is like a bit more kind of like balanced or like tightly constructed. I think Bayonetta 2 is more just like fun, over the top, and kind of colourful.
Hell yeah.
There's more variety in the locations. There's even more crazy spectacle going on. You've got like the whole Back to the Future 2 thing going on where we get to go back to the first game and kind of muck about in it at times. I mean, they're both very enjoyable for this sort of thing. But I think the original Bayonetta for me is an 8, and then 2 is a 9.
Okay. That makes sense. Super Smash Brothers for Wii U with its DLC.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because there's quite a lot of DLC. I think
all those Mii costumes.
Yes, that was the first thing I thought of.
Yes, you got to consider each and every one.
I believe I had pretty much every character except maybe, I don't know, one of the clone type characters. Yeah, because when they did DLC for this, it was not as it was in Smash Ultimate, where it's like every DLC character is like completely unique and has never been in the series
Oh yeah,
before.
here's
Or
Roy, here's
yeah,
Mewtwo, here's Lucas.
we basically had some characters that was like, well, they've been in Smash before. They weren't in the launch version, but yeah, we'll bring them out. And I don't think I had all of those, but I had almost all of them. Certainly all the new unique characters like Bayonetta,
Bayonetta,
Ryu.
Cloud, Ryu, Corrin.
Yes, yeah.
Was there another new DLC character for Smash Wii U? I don't think so.
Yeah, so yeah, it's and then there was extra stages. Of course, some of those came with the characters, and then others were
Yes.
like sort of like those clone characters we talked about, just like, oh, here's stages from Smash Past that hadn't got in yet. So yeah, it was nice. It was kind of nice to have a Smash game with DLC. Always kind of felt like it would be a good fit, but obviously we just hadn't had a game in the time frame where Nintendo was doing that until these ones. And I mean, in terms of everything else about the game, kind of felt like gameplay wise, it just felt a bit like tighter and faster, more like Melee than Brawl did. Obviously, the kind of like the whole big one player sort of thing was gone. Like the Subspace Emissary.
Are you gonna talk shit about the Smash Party game? Because
The
you should.
the board game, yeah.
Yes.
It really felt. I mean, I had a little bit of fun with that with a friend, like every day, but never really had the setup in which
Yeah,
conceivably would enjoy it the most. And it did feel pretty silly. Like you just go. I guess this is something that happens in lots of like video game board games like Mario Party, where it's like you go through this whole thing and then it like boils down to this final event. Like
Yes. No. Look, this is. They announced this in the like. The title screen was fucked because it really made you think it was important, but the way they announced it really understood that it was not, because it was after the 3DS game came out. They literally put out a YouTube video that was like, here's 50 differences, and just one of those differences was like, it has a board game.
That's right. Yeah, one of 50,
Yes.
one among 50. I mean, Smash Run, on 3DS, like kind of had some merits, but it wasn't like this huge deal. But I mean, I don't know whether I mourned the passing of the Subspace Emissary too much, and they did have like events. Like kind of back, which I always like those from Smash. I guess in Ultimate, like the whole Spirit Battles thing is like just a almost endless riff on events.
Yes.
Like so, but,
To some extent, yes.
So I think this is very very good. It's whether it's an 8 or a 9 for me on this one. I think I might go with an 8. It's maybe a little harsh in some ways, but it is. It feels like it. In retrospect, it just kind of feels like the first step towards Smash Ultimate.
Yes.
But it was for the years that I was, because I've basically been playing Smash pretty consistently since '99. And certainly these years where this was the game, I had lots of fun with it.
Yeah, no, this is also our Amiibo debut.
Of course, yeah, they alongside this, yeah.
Yes.
Those first ones not so hot.
No, the build quality on Link very poor. Very interesting design choices there. They did later change that. But what I will say is I don't know. I just appreciated that they had no idea that people were going to try and collect all of them, so they made very few Wii Fit trainers and Marths for the US. Because they're like, who the fuck in the US is going to buy a Wii Fit trainer? The answer was me, by the way. That was the first Amiibo I bought. Because I'm like, well, that's the one I want.
And at that point, they weren't doing. I guess like they sort of oscillated, because like at that point they didn't do like a player 2 thing from Wii Fit
No.
Training. They didn't do the 2 versions of it.
No, they did
But then
not.
later on they would with stuff like Corrin and Bayonetta and Cloud, but
Yeah,
then when we've got to Smash Ultimate, they're not doing that again.
it's true.
So that's kind of strange, but there you
Yeah,
go.
well, there might be reasons for that, but yes, the so just as a recap, our gamepad use for 2014 was the screen is black, the screen is a horn, off TV play, off TV play with the option to tap the screen repeatedly to win for Bayonetta 1 and 2.
They do have touch control. I never tried them, funnily enough, but they did have them,
It's
didn't they?
just tap the screen over and over and over, and eventually you'll win. And it's off TV play. That's it. Those are the.
Yeah.
And our menus are designed like they should have touch support, but they don't. And that's Smash for Wii U specifically.
Oh yes, but yeah, the bloody big, Sakurai cutouts of yeah. But
Oh,
they
yes.
did. Top Hat Ant brings up an interesting because I actually did use this feature. Hyrule
Yes.
Warriors basically, with the multiplayer in that, you could do essentially like split screen, but instead of on splitting the TV in half, it was one display
You're
for the
splitting the frame rate in
TV.
half.
Yeah, and it was rough. Like it definitely the resolution that it was like putting out on the gamepad and the frame rate was not great, but it was kind of a neat other way to do sort of that
Yes.
kind of simultaneous console gameplay.
Yes. Just. Look, by the time we get to Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and I specifically remember in a preview, someone I know wrote a preview of this game before it came out, and they were not allowed to talk about the gamepad function because there wasn't one. And people were like, well, what does the gamepad do? What does the gamepad do? And I think eventually they just snapped and they just said, it's a black screen, and no one believed them, and they got harassed for like 2 weeks. Then people saw it was like, oh no, they really did give up. Okay. They really did just give up. It's nothing.
It's terrible.
Um,
Man.
Dr. Luigi, which, by the way, escaped the year of Luigi in Europe
Yeah, it's the
because this
fiscal
was a
year.
December game in North America, but by golly, Europe got it the next year.
I see it's a bit strange for a game of this type. You wouldn't have thought there's like we got to delay it for localization reasons, marketing reasons. Those are normally,
This is the
what
eighth Dr. Mario game.
I think it probably is safe with the 7 on
Okay.
this one. I don't really know much about its particular merits as a Dr. Mario variant, but
It has a slightly different gameplay because the pills are in L shape, so they're 3x1. Or three by two, like 3x1 with a one extra hook, and so you're trying to fit them around, and it's fine. You can also play actual Dr. Mario in there, which is I assume what most people did after they played the Dr. Luigi mode once. NES Remix 2. Here it is 3 months later, but with good games this time.
yeah. Again, as we talked about before, I didn't actually play this specifically, but yeah, a lot of what's in this is what is in the
Most
3DS
of this
version.
is in the 3DS version. There's a couple
Yeah,
that did not make it.
and I quite enjoyed it. So I think a 7 for that
Okay.
is probably about
Yes,
fair.
I gave the last one a 5, so that makes sense. Pull Blocks World, which was Pushmo World in North America. This is the Wii U HD Pull Blocks game. It's
Yes.
kind of just a direct sequel to the first one.
Yeah, the problem is it's actually distressingly difficult to be absolutely sure I did play this. Because
There were 4 of these, Greg. I don't know how you don't know which ones you did and didn't play.
yeah, but
They all play different but look the same.
I'm fairly certain I did play it, but it's based on that. Go on, please.
I love the fact that they wanted you to scan QR codes for created levels with the Wii U Gamepad camera, which is of course front facing.
Yes, there's a little bit of a little bit unwieldy. I think, yeah, I'm probably going to go with the 7 on this. Again, I wish I was on firmer ground, but it seems like probably the most apt.
So, by the numbers, if by numbers you mean score and not numbers of releases, 2014 was a great year for the Wii U.
Yeah, well, I mean, God, there's some real like corkers there. Even like
This
on
is
the
the
low,
best year of the Wii U.
we were, for instance, like Hyrule Warriors, for instance, like obviously, like that's the sort of the seven of the bunch. But like, it first of all, you could have gone with an eight, but also there's a lot to do with that, So it certainly was good for like if you just wanted to spend a lot of time with that game. So you just had. The hits were there, but just absolutely nothing to kind of fill it out.
Yep. What a fucking year. Well, this is the year where the Wii U eShop started becoming Flappy Bird Land. So I don't know. I don't know what you're complaining about. You could have had that. Mario Party Island Tour, which in North America had the amazing release date of the same day as 3D World and A Link Between Worlds. All three of those came out the same day in North America. Because they're geniuses over there.
Yeah,
Europe
this does sound a bit more sensible to me.
Yes, Europe was like, fucking people will buy Mario Party at the beginning of the next year. Who cares?
Yeah, portable Mario Party does not generally seem to be that well received. But I don't. So any thoughts on this relative to the others? I mean,
look, if I recall, this one has linear boards, like as in straight lines. I don't think people like.
Yeah, I think this is probably based on where we've been before and my recollection of it with these games anyway. Probably a 4. Is that? Yes. I think maybe is that where we go with that? Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding of fan reception to the 3DS Mario parties is that no one really cares about Island Tour. The Star whatever game, people at least appreciated that it was varying the formula, but not in a way that they hated. And then Top 100 didn't have anything other than just play the mini games endlessly. And also people wanted it on Switch for some reason. So, like...
Yeah, that phase, obviously, it's over now, isn't it? But the first few years of Switch was just, like...
Why is this game that would be way more expensive in HD not on the HD system?
Yep.
Alright. Inazuma 11-3 Team Ogre Attacks, which is the third version of Inazuma 11-3.
Yeah.
So this is really Inazuma 11, like 6 or whatever. You gave the last one a 6. I cannot fucking tell you if this game is significantting better than the one that they released.
I guess it's probably safest to just say it's a 6 again because it's probably very much the same. But yeah, when you're getting into, you have sequels, but then you have revisions, like kind of, isn't it? Like where you get the bifurcated versions for like Pokemon reasons, but then you get the kind of revision versions which I guess is more like your Pokemon Platinum or something. Like I have no idea what material difference these things make.
I can tell you what the differences between the Pokemon versions are. I do not give a fuck what the difference is between the Inazuma 11s or the Yokai Watches, as we'll get to.
Well, they shotgun those way quicker as well.
They will all catch up.
Pokemon generations, especially as time's gone on, have got like more and more kind of separated from each other and everything. Yeah.
Whereas when we get to all of the level 5 things, it's just like, fuck it. What's the fastest rate that the market will sustain?
Yeah, it seems like it's just get what you can out of it while the going's good kind of formula, because there's some expectation that it will not continue to be that good.
What was the last major level 5 game you can think of? Exactly.
Ni no Kuni? Not the DS one, because that's really old.
Maybe that, or probably Professor Layton Catriel Layton and the Millionaire Conspiracy.
Yeah.
Which got re-released 4 times.
Yeah, Ni no Kuni 2, I guess, the Revenant Kingdom, right? That probably would have been my sort of...
Yes, GX does highlight Yokai Watch 4, which they kept saying, this will come out in the US. You should check in on their US office. Oh, wait. Oh wait, no one works there anymore.
No.
They closed their international office. Weird. After they built it out so that they could sever all of their publishing relationships and self-publish, they closed that down. Whoops. Anyways, do 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 do. Yoshi's New Island.
Yeah, I don't know whether you could really accurately recreate the fidelity of the.
Yeah, no,
you can't do that.
So here's the thing. I got a review code of this, and you know I'm not a fan of the Yoshi's Island games, but I'm like, you know what? I'm coming to this fresh. I'm gonna take a deep breath, and I'm gonna take this game at its own merits. Just let's take a deep sip of my drink, and hit the A button to launch it. What the fuck is this audio?
Yeah, I get it. Really seems to me like, because it's not really a Yoshi's Island thing. Like the sort of it's more of a Yoshi story thing where it's like, okay, we're gonna do something that's sort of aggressively kind of twee, and it's like, oh, the children at school are putting on a play or a puppet show, or
Yes.
you know, and this is what they've come up with, kind of thing like that. That is more of a Yoshi story kind of angle than it is a Yoshi's Island angle. But latterly, you know, it became a Yoshi's Island. But certainly not all the music is that bad. Like there's some nice music in this.
Yes.
But unfortunately, especially as you say, because it's front loaded with this, it is what often, you know, kind of left impressions with people
so like again,
who reviewed it.
The very first thing you notice when the game launches is just blaring kazoos.
Yep. It's like deliberately bad. Like that
Yes.
is, I think that is the point. However, there is still the intent or not. It's that you can still say,
The result is it's bad.
Yeah, but why? So, I mean, in terms of the merits of the game itself, in some ways, it's kind of like it plays it even safer than Yoshi's Island DS did.
Yes.
Which there's like good and bad to that. I kind of feel like, you know, the dual screen and the additional babies and stuff, like by not having that stuff, it's like a bit less kind of like bloat than was on that game that didn't necessarily improve, you know, the original Yoshi's Island by any means, but also this is in some ways like more redundant for people who have played, and that's the real thing. It's not really for me or, you know, people who like Yoshi's Island having played it a lot, because I think it is much more, you know, just for the kids of the moment to play a game that is very similar to Yoshi's Island, but you know, not the same and not quite as good. But you know that it's so, it brings almost nothing new to the table. That you have a giant egg, sort of in you know, approximation of the Mega Mushroom in New Super Mario Brothers, to be essentially,
Yes.
you know, but it is just like super Let's Play itself safe. Aesthetically, I think it's muddled. It doesn't really kind of commit to one style the way that the original Yoshi's Island did. You have sort of parts that have, like, you know, kind of crayon, but then other parts that look more kind of oil painting. Like, you know, it's just like it's and this also contrasts with, say, Woolly World, which again is like that. It's one aesthetic, whereas this is, it's just a bit muddled. Sometimes it's like, oh, you know, that's kind of like a next gen Yoshi's Island kind of look, and then other times it's like, this is somewhere between Yoshi's Island, Yoshi's Story. It doesn't really know what it wants to look like, you know. It's so it's muddled. It's not at all creative, really. But you know, equally, it is on the bones of you know, well, a game I like and a game I think has a lot of merit. So it's tough to score all that together. You know, I think you know, for a lot of people, it might be a lot better experience than kind of what it sounds like when you just break it down critically. But I think I'll go with the 5 overall, because it's not really bringing that much to the table. And certainly, you know, if this had been at a time where you could just play an accurate version of the Super Nintendo game, it like it would have been
Yes.
preferable. Of course, that didn't really happen until later with the Super Nintendo Mini and
Yes, that's the first.
the NSO. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, which was announced before the system came out.
Yeah, this was kind of like the Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Yeah, but no, because this released in Japan in 2012, and I know because that's when I fucking played it.
That's a fair point. Yeah, the localization was still, as we
Because
covered with, like, we talked about Miracle Mask and
yeah,
stuff. Like
but like
it was still pretty big back then. The delay.
yeah, because also it was part of like, is Capcom gonna bring it over? Is Level 5 gonna bring it over? Who has localization duties? And then fucking Nintendo stepped in. It was like, just give it the fuck to us.
Yeah, it's I didn't get around to this straight away, but I did play it a few years later, and it was my first exposure to Ace Attorney.
Tell me
I
what you
think
think about the color black.
it,
No spoilers.
it put me. I believe I'd said this because I was back on RFM by the time I actually talked about it. I think I basically got it when I realised that Great Ace Attorney was not going to come on
Yes.
3DS. Obviously, it's come since, but it's like, well, let's try this one. Yes, it did remind me of Dark City, that film, the whole premise behind
Yes.
what's going on, but I liked it quite a lot. I think obviously like the latent stuff was not as kind of like it didn't feel quite as like pushing the envelope with the logic puzzles as much as a real latent game would. But it still provided a sort of a meaningful other dimension in the gameplay, and then just like the interplay with the different characters and casts and stuff was quite fun. The music was very nice. The presentation was very good. So I would go with an 8 for that.
Okay. What about Nintendo Pocket Football Club?
Yeah, I didn't play this, but I do remember it sort of having a certain amount of like good buzz around
So
it.
this is a Calciabit game.
Yes, that's how they refer to it in Japan. And presumably, maybe they do in Italy. It'd be an irony if they don't refer to it as that in Italy, considering that's.
I think it is just Nintendo Pocket Football Club in all of Europe.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've said before is that some of these tortured European names are for their universality across the continent. But like, so there's an irony of the Japanese version being inspired by Italian calcio for football, but then Italy doesn't get to have that.
Of course not. Why would they?
Yeah, so it's a bit vague, but I think I might go with a 7 for that. Like as I said, I think it did. People over here, reviewed it, probably somewhat more enthusiastically than elsewhere in the world. But it seemed to.
It didn't come out in North America.
Yeah, I mean,
this was
obviously
Europe and Japan only. They were like,
Nintendo
American look was like, you mean a soccer game without Nintendo characters? Hard pass. Mario Golf World Tour.
Yeah, I put a lot of time into this. I ended up really, really enjoying it. It's. I mean, the DLC figures quite largely in this one because it did add quite a lot. Everything was pretty damn solid in terms of the way it played, the visuals, all that kind of stuff. But it was kind of thin at launch, and then with the DLC adding more courses, the kind of like star coin kind of mode where you got to do like these you got to be able to collect a coin, and do the whole in a certain number of shots. Like that, some of the hard ones were just so insane. You're just looking at it thinking, like, how do I do this? It's like a puzzle game, it's like a portal puzzle or something. But then you've also got to be able to pull off the golf shots, to execute. It's so those were really, really cool and added to it a lot. I think I go to an 8 on that, although because it probably still. you left some things to be designed in terms of like the DLC like added like courses from previous games, which are good courses, and I got a lot of, like I played them a lot, I like them. But in terms of like entirely original courses and stuff, I feel like it did quite have as much as it might have done to get a 9. So I think I'll stick with an 8, even though I just played it in normal like tournaments, like these little speedrun tournaments. Like I think NWR had ones on the forums and stuff I'd play in. Like it was a hell of a lot of fun.
Kirby Triple Deluxe, which every single time I go through the list of games, this always strikes me as having come out before this point.
Yeah, it's quite late, although I suppose Kirby tends to come to things late and leave late. He's like the mic dropper in chief for a lot of Nintendo platforms, because Kirby's Adventure for Wii, as it's known in Europe, was rather late, wasn't it, for a Wii game?
Yes.
So I guess it's like
it was on Nintendo's financials for 4 years.
That's true. Yeah, we kept threatening it, and it was like, I think actually going to do this.
Game in development. Do you have any news about that? No.
And I get that just sort of established that you could do a sort of pretty straight traditional Kirby's Adventure style side-scrolling Kirby game just with polygonal graphics and on a current system, and people would go for it, and so this is the sort of second in that lineage. It uses the 3D effect quite nicely. That I think kind of going in and out of backgrounds and all this kind of stuff. It definitely was a good looking game, and I feel like it built on a lot of it. Basically, what you have in this game is like Kirby gets like this sort of like mega suction power, as opposed to like the ultra abilities that you had in the previous game, and then in the next game you go to the mech suit, the Robobot stuff.
We'll define next game. The next retail game, yes.
You're true, yeah. The next game in this like side-scrolling sort of lineage. So I think definitely, I don't know whether it's my favorite of these, but it's still very, very good. Great soundtrack, really fun extra mode with DDD speedrun stuff. I'd give it an 8.
Okay. Tomodachi Life.
I played this quite a lot. It just I guess some of it may have been if the Wii U had more stuff going on, maybe I wouldn't have been as apt to like try some of the stuff on the 3DS that was a bit more like kind of off the beaten path for me. But I did play this. I did put in a bunch of stupid me's. There was a lot of Game of Thrones people around to put in, and that's generally what I had. An entire band made up of Lannisters called Lannister Gold that would do stupid songs, including obviously the Reigns of Castamere. But it was goofy. It was very, the already won, whatever they were at that point, SPD. They've gone through various kind of restructurings and stuff over the years, but the WarioWare kind of people, very sort of in their wheelhouse with the kind of the goofiness, the humor, the kind of interactions with the characters, and it was. I liked it quite a lot. I think I'd go for a 7 on it. You can make an argument to go higher because it's just uniquely, sort of. I wouldn't say it was enormously entertaining, but it was sort of uniquely amusing. But still, I think 7's probably the best place for that.
Okay. Inazuma 11 Go, Light and Shadow.
Yeah, so Go is like a sub-series, or is this like
is.
Yeah, so this is kind of going on to I don't know, maybe it's reflecting something with the anime or whatever that
about. I think it's more somehow even more actiony and like a little less RPG-y.
Yeah, so
but again, 2 versions. Gotta know which one you want. Are you light side or dark side of the Force?
I prefer the where we got to Yokai Watch and it was like a tempura or whatever like that. That's more the sort of decision I could get behind. Yeah, it's tough. I'm probably just going to stick with that 6 for this. 'Cause again, I do think
Yes.
it had a certain amount of like decent response, but equally, I just don't know how much impact you can really expect it to make when they're just churning them out so fast.
Pokemon Art Academy. This is Art
Yeah,
Academy, but you can, you know, build, learn how to draw your favorite Pokemon.
yeah, I think I can only assume this is the more solid Art Academy type of stuff. So probably the 7 for this, as I
Yep.
believe a lot of the Art Academies have had.
All right. Phonics Fun with Biff, Chip, and Kipper, Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3, which are all retail releases.
Wow, retail releases,
I
3 volumes.
own. Yeah, because they're not going to convince parents of small children to go to the fucking eShop.
Fair point, yeah.
I own, I think, 2 of these. Don fucking just sent me the review code that was like, I'm not touching this shit. And I was like, I'm not reviewing it, so you can have it. Like, fuck around with it, find out. And because for some reason this came out in places outside of um, the UK, even though on the front it says, practice reading and writing at home using synthetic phonics with Biff, Chip, and Kipper from the Oxford Reading Tree series, widely used in primary schools around the UK. And
Yep,
then they
yep.
took that and released it in all of Europe.
It's a bit strange, that part of it. I tell you that one thing I'd say is that if someone's idea, and obviously it is educational, but if someone's idea of a game for me was it connected to something that I was already being exposed to at school, I'd be like, no, that's exactly the
Yes.
opposite of what I want from game. I want it to be as far away from school
Yes,
as
so it
possible.
is. Here are the books that you're reading in primary school, and they're going to come here and they're going to teach you how to read and write on the DS. And the cover is just a mom and her daughter holding
A
a
2DS,
2DS.
yeah,
Yes,
it's
of
in red and
course.
white. Yeah.
Because it's for small children, and the difference between volumes 1, 2, and 3 is their target age audience.
Ah, no, I see. Yeah, because of course, they with the whole sort of line that they drew with the marketing of the 3DS is just like no, don't let little children play it basically because they
Yes.
were so wary of the idea of the 3DS ruined my children's eyesight. So they was like, look,
Yes.
for young kids, just don't let them have it. So yeah, they get the 2DS
Yes.
was
Here's the
pretty much a
2DS
must.
without the hinge. This game obviously does not support 3D in any way because there is no reason to. This is Europe only for obvious reasons. But it is published by Nintendo, which is maybe the
Mm.
weird thing that, like, hey, Nintendo picked this one up because they're like, yeah, we see the appeal. So what are you going to rate Phonics Fun with Biff, Chip, and Kipper volumes 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, it's very difficult. Obviously, it's just so outside of my sphere of interest or knowledge or anything like that. I think I'll probably just go 5s down the line and be done with
Okay.
it.
Fantasy Life.
Yeah, so I mean, this I feel like this got quite warm reception, at least in some quarters, but I never did try it myself.
Yeah, it's neat. It's very interesting. It's like it's borderline a single player MMO on 3DS. And
Mm,
then people were like, make a sequel to this very expensive game that didn't sell very well. And they were like, okay, it's a mobile game because that's how we can support this kind of live service type experience because
yeah.
it's incredibly long. And as GX points out, kind of outstayed its welcome for most people. But like, you would pick a job in a class, and that's what you would do. If you picked Fisher, you're a Fisher in this game. It's a fishing game now. Like, sorry if you wanted the rest of it. Go make a new character.
That's
Basically.
yeah, the life part of the title is kind of literal in that sense.
Yes. So yeah, that's what it is. It looks really really good. It's like a graphics showcase. like it has like a cheapy style, but like so this is level 5, and like level 5's work on Professor Layton and the Azran Legacy the year before, they had pretty much keyed in at this point onto like what are the colors that show best on this hardware, and let's build around that. Yes, people. There is this vocal group of people who are very disappointed that Fantasy Life 2 is a free-to-play mobile game.
Yeah, I think maybe a 7 for that is sort of what I'm picking up. Again, difficult to be too sort of certain of it, but sounds like it's probably the right range.
Super Smash Brothers for Nintendo 3DS.
I mean, it is much the same game as the Wii U
for
game.
What it's worth, and it has
It
Smash
does.
Run.
It does come over first. It does have Smash Run, and it is also just miraculous that it is the same game. Like that.
Yes. Do I want to play on this hardware? No. Is it magical that it happened?
Yep, and because it came out first, and because it was portable, I played this an enormous amount. Just poured the hours in, and it does have some like exclusive stages as well. But then the Wii U has exclusive stages, kind of a here or there thing. But I think mainly for the technical achievement of it, I would shade this to the 9. It's just I think it's I mean, when you thought in kind of the really early on in the days of Smash Brothers as a series, thought about them bringing it to portable hardware, I think it's amazing how complete and like uncompromised and just it's just everything. It is Smash Brothers on 3DS, and it's every bit as good as you could hope for it to be.
Yes, no, and I also appreciate that. Like, hey, this was taking advantage of the kind of just announced and just releasing in Japan around this time new 3DS to speed up those fucking loads.
Yeah. I mean, I did play it basically on new 3DS. So, I've quite a lot over the. I mean, it was a some amount of months, I think, because I did get the new 3DS.
The new 3DS was spring 2015 in the West.
Yeah, so that would have been about 6 months after, and then I think maybe there was a couple of months after before I actually got my non-XL model, because that was much more of a thing in Europe than it was in America, and so I played it a lot, on the XL, the old XL, before I played it on the other model, which
are fucking brutal.
Yeah, it's I mean.
Specifically, the loading time of I'm on the 3DS operating system and I want to get into the game. Because in order to run, it had, my understanding is that it had gotten an exception from Nintendo, so it was turning off the entire operating system while you were playing it to get that extra RAM.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, if you hit the home button, the game freezes, you wait like 6 seconds, and then you can go to the home menu, because it's starting the operating system again.
Yeah, I feel like there was a handful of other games, maybe, that not many, but that I feel like there was something else that at least had a similar sensation, but it could be a false memory.
There's just a few, I think, this is the big one, but like I think there's a couple games, all first party, of course, that Nintendo allowed. Just like, if you want to run on the old 3DS, we want you to run on the old 3DS, we're going to let you eke out just like another megabyte or 2 of performance. And of course, the 3DS, I think, has like 4 megs of RAM? It's stupid. It's like nothing. So, like, the fact that like everything counts on that thing. Disney Magical World.
Yeah, I know nothing about. Yeah, I did not. I know nothing about it. Did they just bring one of these back for Switch or something?
Not. I don't think it's in this franchise. So this is Your Me. This game actually does really, really well in Japan. Like this franchise. This is Bandai Namco, but Nintendo brought it over. This is your me goes to Disney World and interacts with not cast members, but actually the Disney characters. And there are ride-based mini games, but it's really just about like that Disney experience.
Yeah, I really have no idea what to call this. I've never been to Disney World. I don't particularly know Disney characters that they didn't acquire later anyway.
You were first in line to go to Euro Disney when that first opened?
I was not. That was such a big fucking deal. Honestly, people could not shut up about Euro Disney, and I never fucking went. Again, I wasn't the target audience. People who actually knew and had affection for the Disney characters. But no, I mean it was such a you heard about it a hell of a lot. But,
I'm sure. But
no, I did not.
If you're in the UK, you hear about it in a different tone than if you hear about it from France.
Sure.
They're like, what the fuck is this fake castle? Have they not seen the real ones?
Yeah, the closest I've ever had to go into that is the Itchy and Scratchy land of The Simpsons. That's which gave us Bort and where did we park? Well, it was in the Itchy lot. And
yes,
it's such a classic. Yeah. So, any idea? Can you help me?
Just give it a 5 and let's move on.
Okay.
Ultimate NES remix.
Yeah, to go with the 7 with that. I think this is the one I played. Really, what I'm basing the 7 off the other NES remix, and they're pretty secure in that.
Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
Yeah, didn't get this one. It was Sun and Moon. That was my first 3DS Pokemon. So yeah, any thoughts on this?
So. This is a weird one. So this is the last This is the last fully traditional Pokemon RPG. Because you get to Sun and Moon and we're already starting to massage the formula quite a bit. We're like, okay, we're changing the idea of the gym leaders. We're changing we're changing HMs, and it's big and has a lot of content, and as a remake, it's very faithful. And the complaints are, holy shit, is it faithful?
Yeah.
The complaints are, we are in 2014. I don't want a game that is all HMs. Like, there's the fucking IGN meme review that became a meme in the meanest way to the author, where she had elaborated for 3 paragraphs in the review that hey, when this game was built originally, they designed the map where the western half of the map is a lot of land and the eastern half of the land is a lot of basically archipelagos in an ocean. And so when you are basically, once you get surf, you're in the right half of the map, and it's just all fucking water and just NPCs in the water and random enemy encounters in the water, and then you'll get to a land. And that was, kind of an example of this is an antiquated form of game design for the Pokemon series that they are beholden to because they are remaking it, that everything is HM based. And then in the summary, it was just summarized as too much water. As people were like, what the fuck does too much water mean? Because they didn't read the review. But
who does?
as the internet does. And so now people say, IGN says too much water for this game. It's like, all right, whatever. But Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, yeah, they have a lot of game. They're really good. The music is really good. They are really liked because people really like parts of those original Ruby Sapphire games, and then these kind of embellished stuff people did like. It even takes a lot of stuff that X and Y introduced, like Mega Evolution, and it actually fleshes it out more, which is weird because X and Y were the Mega Evolution games.
Yeah, I guess
and this is the game
in lieu of the third version.
Yeah, this
maybe
is the third version.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, some of the stuff that presumably would have got iterated on in that more, it probably just bled into this.
For whatever reason, in X and Y, they have Mega Evolutions for one of the 3 Ruby and Sapphire starter Pokemon, but not the other two. So like, yeah, like Omega Ruby and Apple Sapphire I think have something stupid like 15 Mega Evolutions that aren't in X and Y. And then they of course didn't get patched back into X and Y because of the 3DS. So yeah, it's Pokemon X and Y. Yeah, you gave it a 6. They aren't very good. I'm X and Y. Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire are significantly better, but still held back, even to being discussed at the time, by this kind of sense of like, can we just get something new? Some of these systems were like designed around, I have 2 buttons and they're A and B,
Yeah.
and then I can pause. What are the interactions that I can do with that? And so this is the last game that really is stuck with those limitations.
So maybe a 7 for that.
That
It's yeah, it's probably between a 7 and 8, but I'll go with 7.
Steel Diver Sub Wars, is this the first free-to-play game that Nintendo's releasing? This is the first free-to-play game.
Yeah, it could be. I never really did much with this, even though it was free to start, or whatever you want to say.
It's a different release order, I believe, of which is the first free-to-play game in different regions, but in Europe, this is definitely the first.
Right. Obviously, later on, we got like Kirby ones and various things, but Pokemon Picross, it wasn't that like that. Yeah, so yeah, I really didn't mess around with this too much, but I guess it's not really, but it's the Steel Diver connection. I mean, like, because it's a very different kind of game.
It's a very different game. It's a online multiplayer ship combat game with submarines that turn slowly, and the mechanics are, well, you can play the game online for free, but if you want the rest of the tutorial and all of the good ships, you have to pay us $10.
Yeah.
Which really is, here's a demo.
I remember reading some kind of people got into it a little bit, I think, but I guess it just didn't grab me because I sure as hell didn't play, even though I would be all but certain I did download it just out of curiosity at some point. A 5, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pokemon Link Battle, which was Pokemon Troze Battle in the rest of the world.
Troze's back at his.
This one is notable for a reason we'll get to in 2015. So
okay,
just keep this one in mind that this came out. So this is your match 3 puzzle game. It's like it's like $10. It's fine. It has all the Pokemon through X and Y.
Another 5.
Sounds good. Chibi Robo Photo Finder.
Yeah, I mean, I like Chibi Robo.
This is the closest they've ever gotten to a Chibi Robo 2.
Yeah, it seemed like, it was, from what I gathered, it kind of, there was a certain amount of that kind of, charm or the presentation, but it didn't entirely work.
It had the narrative, it had the characters, and you went on the adventure, and it was a 3D adventure game, but it kept asking you, stop, go take more pictures of things.
Yeah, and again, with that camera and all
exactly.
that, I mean, yeah, I think it's probably another 5 to finish.
Okay. That puts us at wow. Usually people talk about this era as the 3DS carries the Wii U. But when you're talking about averages, the Wii U carries the 3DS.
Yeah,
I thought for sure we were going to hit a high point when we got 9,978, 9,877. And now we're at a 6.73.
Yeah, well, some of those, there's a few of those maybe could have gone higher, but like I said, that Wii U stuff. I mean, there's no kind of mediocrities in it. They're all really solid.
Oh, you want some mediocrities? Don't worry, we got 2015 for you. This is where all the mediocrities got pushed. Don't worry, we got 14 Wii U games, including the eShop. Let's get through them.
Yeah.
All right, first let's start with Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which was Holiday 2014 in the rest of the world.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like really late though, right? Was it
it was like early December. Let me look it up.
Yeah, definitely November type of like get it, on the shelf for Thanksgiving. It was definitely a bit later than that.
Yeah,
I
so this
seem to
was
remember,
November 2014 Japan, December 2014 in North America, and January 2015 in Europe. So 1 month, 1 month, 1 month.
Yeah. So I mean, this is like I said, it's not the, it's not, I guess, nothing to do with localization or anything. Just presumably what they perceive to be advantageous for retail or whatever in the different regions. I like it, quite a lot. I played it. I played it on Wii U. I also played it on Switch through the Japanese NSO. It's a trial now in America. Years ago, it was a trial in Japan, and I availed myself of that to just because you can finish it in that time pretty easily to play the Switch version. So yeah, no, it's a really sort of nice kind of extrapolation of the stages that they had in the 3D World game, and kind of building off those little diorama kind of three-dimensional, stereoscopic three-dimensional stages in 3D Land as well. So yeah, I'd give that an 8.
Awesome. Mario Party 10. This one has Amiibo, but the Amiibo functionality is terrible.
We've got Amiibo, we've got Bowser, Big Grumpy
we've got
with the gamepad
again.
Yeah, so is this another 4 on this?
Right.
I think it is, yeah.
Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, which is the first time that there was blowback against a game that really did use the gamepad. Because I was like, well, it looks great on the fucking TV. I can't look at it.
No, it's more for like, I guess, if you've got like family or if it's like
it's for other people to look at the really beautiful graphics. You're too busy drawing.
It's a little bit like Rhythm Heaven, I suppose, where it's like with Rhythm Heaven on Wii, or so, like a lot of the time you try to tune out the visuals because they're fucking with you.
Yes.
So that they are for other people to look at rather than you. So I guess there's some other analogous situations that it is a bit strange, but I mean it still looks nice on the gamepad, obviously, but it doesn't take because the aesthetic, that kind of the clay kind of stop motion animation kind of look to it really does take advantage of the resolution on TV, which obviously the gamepad didn't have that quality of resolution. So you aren't fully appreciating what's going on aesthetically when you're just looking at the gamepad, which you basically have to do.
Yep.
So it's a little awkward in that sense, but it's pretty solid, sort of follow up to the DS game, but prettier and stuff. So I think I'd go with a 7 on that.
Okay.
Very nice music as well.
Splatoon 1.
Yeah, this is an interesting game, but I guess with this, it's again it got not so much like the paid DLC, but just the updates. This changed a lot as a game.
Yeah,
as the months went on.
This was an early like Nintendo, because like games as a service has been a thing at this point, and like the review conversation about like how do we treat this has been going on, but like this is the first time like Nintendo outlets are like, fuck, what I reviewed at launch is completely not representative when there were 4 maps versus when there were like 15.
No, it's true. It grew a lot because I had it early, basically at launch, I think, and it was still fun but it just kind of kept growing and growing as it went on, and I ended up playing it a hell of a lot. But I mean, I do feel like Splatoon 2 kind of, it's not like a massive leap over it, but it does feel like Splatoon 2 kind of completed, might be overstating it, but definitely like really furthered the journey that it was on. Whereas I guess the problem for this was, they supported it a remarkable amount when you consider how moribund the Wii U was, I guess, because it was weirdly popular, considering how few Wii U's were out there, and it's a new IP. I mean, especially in Japan, which it didn't particularly. I guess Wii U was probably relatively popular in Japan, but not really. This definitely helped, and it made a outsized, disproportionate impacts considering all the disadvantages
Yes.
that it had. So I think, even though it started off kind of thin, and I think Splatoon 2 kind of iterated on it, and just had the biggest thing in its favor of being on a more popular platform and more players and
More
all that kind of
popular,
stuff.
even though it launched like 6 months in, less like 4 months into the system.
It's true.
It
It's
was already
ridiculous.
a more popular
It's
system.
ridiculous how fast it blew past though. So I think I'll go with an 8 for Splatoon.
Okay. Yoshi's Woolly World.
Yeah, of the good feel ones, I feel like this is probably closest to a 9 for me, but I'm still gonna go with 8. I think on this one, it's very very good, but it is still very very close to the original Yoshi's Island. You know what I mean? It's not like it's really doing that much different. It's just you've got a different aesthetic.
I mean, what's doing this different is it lets you play it with a good control system.
Yeah, we've covered this before. I think that is a pretty significant addition with the gyro aiming and all that kind of stuff. But design wise, it's pretty faithful. I think what it does that I like is it sort of takes certain elements from Yoshi's Island, sort of design ideas like gimmicks, types of platforms, whatever it might be. It takes them and it basically puts them in one level where it's like, okay, we're gonna do everything we want to do with this idea in this one level, and then that's it basically. So it's a bit more of a sort of Mario Galaxy style approach, where it's like you don't necessarily feel like for something to be worth including, it has to like keep coming back. Like it's just like no, we're gonna put it there. We're gonna do what we wanted to do with it, and then we move on, and things don't outstay their welcome that way. I feel like it's a bit more kind of the levels have a bit more of a distinct themed kind of quality to them than the
And you
original
don't
Yoshi's
need to
did.
perfect the level for it to count.
Yeah, this which again is something to Yoshi's New Islands credit. Also had that sort of thing in terms of you could do a particular facet of the sort of collection and get credit for that. I forget in this whether it was even more granular in terms of like
It was very
particular
granular. It just remembered your complete progress.
particular collectibles. It's just like rather than like, well, you got to have all 5. I think with New Island, maybe it was like if you have all 5 flowers, then you get credit for 5 flowers. Whereas like in this, you got the yarn balls and stuff, and like maybe you got credit for particular ones and stuff. So a bit like you'd get credit for particular star coins in a new Super Mario Brothers game. So it definitely had little improvements. It had a kind of an aesthetic that it just completely embraced and went all the way with, much like they did with Epic Yarn for Kirby, but different because it's much more three-dimensional. It's much more of a diorama rather than layers of fabric, which would kind of pay off in a way when they did the 3DS version, because then the 3D effect kind of had a depth to offer. But like I said, it's not. I don't know whether it's quite original enough to merit a 9, but it's by far the best way to play a sort of more modern Yoshi game. Like it's not particularly close.
All right, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
John Lindemann's Devil's 3rd out of 10.
It's I mean, it's infamous on so many levels.
If
But
you are watching this on YouTube as an archive, click on my channel link. You'll find the 6-hour, 17-minute stream where I played the entire game in one sitting with James Jones trapped on that call, desperate to leave by hour 2.
yeah, it's what is the proper word for like someone who like somewhat evangelizes a game, but to tell everyone it's terrible? I don't.
I don't know, but that's me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
if around 2016 to 2018, I would try and randomly tweet out the box art without any tweet text at least like once a month. Just to fuck with people.
Just because I mean, this game, it was a very real risk, if I could use that language, of being forgotten. But seemingly you took it upon yourself to say, no, we shouldn't forget this.
No, Nintendo published this. They put their name on this garbage. They released that ISIS hostage video.
They did.
To all of their YouTubes. No.
Another aspect to the infamy.
And yes, Nintendo of America was like, there's no way we're putting this fucking dog shit out. And then NCL, to my understanding, said, you should check the original publishing agreement. It said you would.
Yeah, we have to.
And
yeah.
so Nintendo of America said, fine, we're going to put out the absolute minimum run that could ever be put out of the physical version. And we're going to release on the eShop on, like, what was it, like fucking Christmas Day or some garbage for like $60 and then never think about it again. There, we meant the letter of the law.
Well, the fact is, you are one of the very few people on the face of this earth who is actually directly qualified to score this.
Yeah,
so
this game's dog shit.
It would be malpractice of me to not allow you to do so on my behalf in this case.
See, my favorite thing about this game was when I was streaming it at around hour 5 as I'm losing my mind against these boss fights that are just trial and error. With gameplay that just fucking sucks. As the story tries to make me care about the love interest, who's also the daughter, whose name is C4. Why wasn't there a C4 spirit in Smash, you cowards?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just ignored this one, Sakurai. I see what's up. Someone joins the Twitch chat who was searching for people streaming Devil's Third, and was like, "Hey, you should get online. I'd like to play with you. There's no one that I can play with." And I'm like, oh no. You unironically are playing Devil's Third and do not understand why I am playing Devil's Third. Anyways, it's a 3 because of the name.
Yeah, seems fit. Seems apt.
This thing
a good fit.
it has a microtransaction-ridden multiplayer that lasted for less than a year, and the single player is bad, and they justify the single player with, well, that's not the focus, it's the multiplayer's the focus, and the multiplayer was bad also. And again, filled with microtransactions for this $60 Nintendo game.
Cutting edge.
Yeah,
Cutting edge.
Really just... Look, the story of John Linneman covered in tattoos in the basement of Guantanamo prison playing a contraband drum set, which is the opening shot of that game, is... This game is... Again, everyone should go watch that stream. Don't do it in one sitting. Don't.
I feel like I've seen some of this long ago, but not so because obviously it's very long, so I don't think I saw that much.
The archive. Oh my god, that's right. I literally did this on Christmas Eve. It was like Christmas Eve 2016 stream. No wonder James wanted out.
This is like it's the scenario for like a horror movie or like a Gremlin sequel.
I think I literally messaged James like a week beforehand and was like, "Are you free Christmas Eve?" And he's like, "Why the fuck are you asking?" And I'm like, "No reason." And then a week later, here we are.
It's like that is a Gremlin sequel. Someone is just trying to happily
I think halfway through.
live stream playing Devil's Third, and then
Yes.
the Gremlins, who are secretly the arbiters for good taste in this game, are like dead set against you being allowed to do this.
Yes, I think that halfway through, James has just pulled out the Gex novelization and is just
God, he
like
loves
loudly
that.
reading it, trying to distract. Anyways, it's
It's
fucking
like fighting fire with fire, I guess, as a
yes.
one cultural abomination against another, and somehow something better will come out of that.
Yes, GX is confirming he did do that. I'm not just making that up. Good. That is, in fact, 5 years and a month ago. So,
God.
hard
It
to
feels
remember.
longer though, doesn't it? It feels longer. That's
I mean,
what's
the game
happening.
came out 2015. The stream was at the end of 2016. So it had been a full year of me being a shit disturber on Twitter, just constantly tweeting about Devil's Third. Until I finally made good on the threat and played the entirety of it. Because I think the actual occasion was they were going to delist it at the end of 2016, which they did do. You cannot buy this game anymore.
As soon as basically they could do so within the parameters of the
Yes.
publishing agreement. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. That's strike one of the dog shit Wii U games. Super Mario Maker is not another strike.
Yeah, I had this.
This one came out on 9/11.
Oh God, it's there's some. I rather enjoyed this, even though it's not like the creation part. I am terrible at creating things, but the tools were kind of the gamepad and everything was kind of easy enough that I did at least make quite a few levels. I made an attempt to kind of join in, and even though they were mostly sort of rubbish, I think it did add to the sense of the kind of communal experience of people making levels, playing levels, seeing what other people have done.
This game is just fucking great.
The Miiverse stuff, it's just it will obviously
every level you ever made.
You could like play levels that made you doubt the value.
Mm-hmm.
And again, but there was some sort of it was like a journey, of just seeing what people came up with, and sometimes there was really clever stuff, and then of course there'd be the stuff that was shared online of like, see what this person's done with it, and of course they added to it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They added a lot of cool stuff to it over time. But I
Here
think
are
I go
levels
with
that
a
are only
9.
completable if you use a bug.
yes, people love doing that, so they could have the percentage would be really, really low. So it was like this like badge of honor. I've made something good. But yeah, I would go with a 9. I think even though obviously there were some things in like Mario Maker 2 that you could would have been nice if they'd been in this one and stuff. I think they did they executed on it really, really well at the first time.
Yes, I really wish that they'd let. I know that they made fundamental changes that made this really hard, but I really wish they found a way to scrape and import all of these Super Mario Maker 1 levels into 2. Because they just turned off the Super Mario Maker 1 is dead now.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? There was so much good shit there. Anyways.
My main achievement in this was to remake the Mario World level where people use Yoshi to get to the secret exit by sacrificing him.
Yes.
And making it such that if you do that, you find yourself in a prison full of chain chomps and unable to escape and are summarily executed by them. So you had to use the cape and do it for real to clear the level.
Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater, which did actually get a retail release in Europe.
Yeah, it did. I recall that. And it's been re-released just recently.
Yes, but not by Nintendo.
Things. Not by Nintendo in that case, no.
This is like the Wonderful 101 and Devil's Third, where they just let their publishing agreement of this game lapse.
Yeah, go. God be with you.
Yeah, take your fucking poorly received games somewhere else.
I mean, I quite like Wonderful 101.
Or Wonderful 101, it was not poorly received. It was, my understanding, until Devil's Third, the worst selling game in Nintendo's history. My understanding is that Wonderful 101, you could count every single person that bought that game.
Yeah, I was one of them, but
It was 4 digits by the end of its life cycle.
That's incredible. With this, it seemed like the Wii U could be a good platform for this series. In terms of the kind of using a camera in the game or something. But then the reviews I read didn't really suggest that had indeed been the case.
No, they made a weird fucking spin-off that people didn't like.
Yeah, so I was thinking a 5 for this. So I don't think it's not Spirit Camera. It's not like that bad.
No, it works. But I want to be clear. When I'm talking about this game, like no one likes it, I'm not talking about people hate this thing. People are just disappointed.
Yeah, exactly.
Spirit Camera is loathed.
Yeah, it just wasn't what it could have been or what people hoped it might be. It's a bit different. Yes. Now this one.
Yeah. All right, ready for strike 2? Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. Let's talk about games that require you to use Amiibo that are also shit.
Yeah, and also like Amiibo that weirdly, it's even more weirdly in retro. I mean, it's weird in general, considering like how massive, even relative to the system, New Leaf was, and then how massive New Horizons is now. Like that it's just like they made these Amiibo. And they just couldn't fucking sell them. I mean, like they were just like way overproduced and just hung around.
Really So what they did was they put out a Wii U Amiibo game that required Amiibo, a 3DS game that supported Amiibo, an Animal Crossing 3DS game that we'll come to in the 3DS section of this year that came out before this, that supported the 3DS Amiibo, and they knew that they were adding Amiibo functionality back into New Leaf. So they produced the fuck out of these things. And of course the cards were for everything but the Wii U game. The cards are there are cards of Isabelle and figures of Isabelle, and the two are interchangeable. But for Amiibo Festival, you need the figures. And, they make the cards did fine. And the figures, you have Isabelle. People wanted Isabelle. You have KK Slider. People like, hell yeah, like KK Slider. And then they made Lottie, who is the secretary introduced in Happy Home Designer on 3DS, who's not in New Leaf or any other game before it. And they made so many of her. My Target had them for like $2 and had a shelf of her that were not moving inventory.
Yeah, so that's the funny thing is just like you might think, well, the figures are figures, like you might just say they sell off their own state, but even they seem to be subject to the sort of poison of the Wii U and this game.
So you play this game, and I reviewed this game, so I am deeply familiar with it. Here is the experience of this game. Is you start it and it's like, great, we're gonna play a board game, and it picks the current month that you're in, and you play an entire round of the board game, and it says on the cover, back to cover, is not just a board game. There are other mini games, and the board game is Mario Party but without mini games. And you don't get to press the button to roll. You have to tap your Amiibo to roll every single turn to prove that you own it.
Yep, still got it.
Yeah, still really, really game. I still own that Amiibo. And then, when you're done, it's like, that was great. Let's play the board game again. But this time you can choose the month. You have to play 2 entire rounds of that fucking board game before it starts letting you do something else. Before it even shows you the main hub, which feels like a mistake. Because if you want to convince people that that they should interact with more things, maybe after they've just had a miserable experience, don't say, do it again.
Yeah, that's it's a strange one. I mean, normally when you make people jump through hoops, it's like something that, I don't know, maybe because you think they need to, like
No, you
reach
don't
some
need to.
sort of
Yeah.
skill ceiling or something. But clearly,
No.
that's not what's going on
It's
here.
just
I mean,
yeah, it's like, all right, what are you when are you done? All right, there's like 7 other mini games. And by the way, there is one mini game that people kind of enjoyed, like genuinely, which is like an island escape type thing where it's weirdly like a Don't Survive inspired experience. Like Don't Starve, excuse me, Don't Survive, Don't Starve style inspired experience where like you're moving across hexagonal grids on this island and you're trying to like gather resources and craft things to in a survival game. And it's very weird. Anyways, they took that and they just patched that in to the 3DS New Leaf game for free later.
yeah.
They're like, people like that one. All right, you can play it on 3DS. Please enjoy our work.
It was that the Welcome Amiibo like update to that game or
Yes,
something,
that was in
wasn't
Welcome Amiibo. So Welcome Amiibo added that and it added Puzzle League. Just straight up, here's Puzzle League.
it?
And that was it, right? Is like they took the one mini game that anyone gave a fuck about from the Wii U game, and they put it backported it into the 3DS game for free. And
Yeah,
so,
that sold many millions of copies.
yes,
That
and
people,
Amiibo Festival, like their other video games are like, all right, here's a trivia game. All right, what's this villager's catchphrase? Answer me in 10 seconds or else.
it's just so nakedly a case of like, I mean, this it has the whiff of like fulfilling a publisher agreement, even though in this case it's all
Yes,
Nintendo.
no,
But it's
this
like
is
we promised ourselves we put something Animal Crossing on this platform.
there are
We've basically
yes,
already decided that this thing is fucking done. And therefore,
yes.
that the next Animal Crossing game will not be on it. However, we feel that we
We
should honour this obligation to
because
put an
in
Animal
like
Crossing product on it anyway.
at the end of 20 or like at, yeah, so 3D the Wii launched in 2012. At the beginning of 2013, they put out Animal Crossing Plaza, which was just a fucking app, but it was a proof of concept that like, hey, we have made HD models of all of the villagers,
Yes.
which is a very large commitment. There are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
villagers. They've made those HD models. Here they are. All right, I guess we got to do fucking something with them.
Yeah,
Um,
no, yeah, just make it good on that, like,
yeah, what's
follow
telling
through, I guess, if you want to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, what's telling is that Amiibo Festival, Happy Home Designer, and Chibi Robo Ziplash all had in like at E3 that year in 2015, like it was there were two producers between the three games, and they just did all the interviews together. They just bundled these three games for interviews. And you ask them like, so why did you decide you wanted to make these games? And for all three games, the answer was, well, we thought we wanted amiibo figures of these characters to exist, so we made the games around that. That's literally the producer's answer. Was like, was there a creative like burning vision for an Animal Crossing board game? No, I wanted a Tom Nook figure.
We wanted a figure, but we were just going to release the figure by itself.
Yeah,
It's
Nintendo. We can't convince Nintendo. We can't get a green light on just a figure with no game attached. So we made the game.
Yeah, but could be the very least game one could imagine.
So that is the only reason these three games got made.
It's so basic. It's not to the same extent as Devil's Third, but still, again, you are in a pretty small minority of people who actually have been able to appraise this directly because you've actually subjected yourself to it.
Yes, you've made you've released this game at $60. Also, they had the balls to say the first run has Isabelle and Digby, which is Isabelle's brother, that is kind of easily forgotten about. But only the first run. If you don't act fast, we're gonna print a run 2 that only has Isabelle. Obviously, they never printed run 2. Run 1 became like $5. So like,
No, but
Oh,
you get the for your services to criticism. You get to score this for
all
me.
right, get to 2, which is lower than Devil's Third, I know, because there's a chance that you can just land on a space that's like, oh no, you lost everything. And then it just takes all your score away from you at the end of the
Nice.
game.
It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I love skill based gameplay. Mario. All right, strike 3. Mario
Yeah.
Tennis Ultra Smash.
Yeah, this is again sort of similar, isn't it, in terms of just but not so much specific a series, but more just like, well, again, we've decided that this thing is dead, but
Yes.
we feel like we owe it to put something
Yeah,
out,
this is fuck. We need a holiday game with Mario in it.
and
What
then
is
it's like
the
what.
literal bare minimum?
Yeah, the minimum that we can, that we're willing to
So,
divert away from our
for
actual.
example, it has online, but only against strangers. Only random
Yeah.
online. There's no friend matching. That's too much work. It has tennis, but only one stadium. It has
Yeah.
characters, but not many.
Yeah, so I don't. I mean, having played like Mario Tennis Aces or whatever,
Yep.
which is very much more like the finished game
Oh,
essentially,
this is like a
rather than
prototype.
this
This
is
is a
the
proof of
half
concept that they
baked.
released, printed on a disc and sold for $60.
There must be a certain amount here that's sort of fundamentally
Yes,
playable,
that's
but
the
beyond
thing. Is
that,
everyone said the tennis is good. It's a fucking insult of a package.
yeah, it's
Um,
it's difficult to balance,
It is being mentioned in chat that you could play as one of the Sprixie princesses from 3D World.
3D World, yeah. That's well. I mean, there's the hot new character. I'm surprised we didn't get an amiibo of the Sprixie Princess. We could have done now because it came back. Like the
Yeah,
way that
no,
Skyward Sword
they,
got like a new amiibo
they
with the
were they were
re-release.
smart when they said we're bringing out 3D World on Switch. It is worth amiibo. We're only gonna pick 2, which are Cat
Cat
Mario and
Peach.
Cat Peach.
Yeah, exactly. I could have gone for Cat Toad. Cat Toad is exceptionally cute.
Cat
But
Toad is very cute. I know that my partner would have loved a Cat Toad.
with the ears on that head, it's just too
Yes.
much. I love it. But yeah, for this, I think. Well, is it a 3 or a 4? That's what I'm
I
thinking.
think it's a fucking 3.
Go with the 3 then.
All right. You know what's not a strike against the Wii U is buried at the end of this. A game that just took a few years to make, but it came out, I promise. Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yeah, this is pretty fantastic.
It'll never
This
leave the Wii U, and I'm so mad about that.
it's a shame. I mean, it was like the gamepad was like actually used and everything.
Yeah, and they shut down the online after a year.
Yeah, it's a shame it couldn't have the kind of support of a popular system. They
The
could have done more
fucking
with it.
soundtrack.
It's
So weird and good.
I think it's about this that I've kind of really ended up sort of warming up to in a way, is the fact that it was so different from Xenoblade, which I really liked, but then also really, really good in its own way. Like
Yes.
the soundtrack was different because it wasn't Mitsuda and other, or the Shimomura.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't that style. Just the nature of the gameplay, the nature of the characters, like everything was really different, except I guess just the hook being like explore and just find these jaw-droppingly massive scale environments. And of course, it could do that on a bigger, better scale because you're talking about HD console rather
Yes.
than. I mean, what Xenoblade did for Wii is incredible, and it's I think a real achievement of art design as well as knowing what they could do with the Wii on a
Yeah.
technical level. But now you take that art design and give them a much bigger canvas to work on, and they really did it. It's really just the exploration and of course the kind of journey of how you explore the world changing in those big steps of you kind of just on foot, but then much more mobile than the characters in the original Xenoblade. It must be said.
Yes,
But,
no. Again,
but
this
on
is the
foot.
game, like, this is the game that I had been looking forward to since launch, to the point where even though there was fucking nothing on the Wii U, I fucking bought a Japanese Wii U so I could play this game in April instead of December.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I was like, there's an 8-month gap? Fuck you. I literally, like, I don't always tap my friends at Nintendo of America for information. Statute of limitations is up. I tapped someone just to ask, like, in, like, February, been like, where is this in the release calendar? And they're like, if this hits by the end of the year, miracles have happened. And I'm like, okay, we are importing this Japanese Wii U for this. Congrats on selling 2 Wii U's to the same person.
I mean, you had some good games in this year, but I mean, this one was one of the ones that you were kind of waiting for over multiple years. You know, this was kind of the thing that was like, well, there's that. You know, there's
this
coming.
And whatever SMT Crossfire Emblem ends up being.
Yeah, that's true. That was another one, like, fittingly enough, SMT5. You know, where it's just like you were left waiting for ages. But
and then there's this and Yarn Yoshi, which also happened to come out this year.
Yeah, it did take a long time to show up, but it was a big deal. I do remember you coming on the show. It's one of the just what I remember kind of about just you being on the show and having so much information, because people didn't have that much information on this game.
This game came out in Japan before any English language messaging came out about this game.
No, I guess some of it is just a function of how fucked the end of the Wii U's like cycle was.
But Nintendo was not putting energy explaining what this game was, because there's like the localization gap, and Nintendo has tried to shorten the localization gap as much as possible in the last 5 years, and that's been fantastic. But this game had such a long localization gap that they're like, well, we don't want people to burn out on information. So we're not even gonna really put in our first big English language trailer for the final version of the game until E3.
Yeah.
And of course, game's out in April, and everyone's like, all right, people are literally playing this game. What the fuck is it? And so
no, exactly. It was still quite a lot of mystery from my point of view at that time. Of okay, we know some things, they show some things, but how does it all work? What's kind of the goal?
One of the first questions I got, I think, was is this an MMO? I'm like, no, you don't see other players running around in real time, but their play is reflected. Is there any energy in Nintendo or Monolith to bring this to Switch? There is interest from Monolith. My understanding is that it keeps getting brought up, and this is just what I'm hearing, and I haven't checked in the last year. But my understanding is that Monolith kept saying, hey, we want to bring this game forward, and Nintendo said, show us what the budget is, or what the costs are. And Monolith does, and Nintendo said, no, you could put those same people on the next game.
Yeah.
Is my understanding is Monolith wants to bring this forward more than Nintendo does.
Yeah, I can imagine why, because it just seemed to pour so much into it, and it's I'm sure no
one saw it.
They believe in the merit of it, and the few of us who did play it, many of us believe in the merit of it. But it's unfortunately, I mean, not that I don't think this is particularly relevant, but I mean, it must be a little bit disheartening with the way that Sharp FE seem to be sell even worse.
Yes, no, we'll get to Sharp FE.
How is that even possible?
Yes, no, the online of this game is gone.
Yeah, so it just for preservation reasons, and also just the opportunity for more people to play it. It would be wonderful if it could come back. I think for me, I would definitely go with a 9 on this. Yes. You really clicked once I kind of, again, it was kind of useful. I think the fact that you were on RFN back there before I was back on it talking about it to kind of help set my expectations of what it was actually going to be. I think it kind of helped me kind of prepare for the game and be open-minded, and then it really won me over with the time in it and put loads of time into it.
Yeah, no, and also shout outs to Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Europe's PR teams for taking one look at this thing and making sure that reviewers had access to it like 8 weeks before it came out.
Yeah, you need the
being
time.
Like, you need months with this game. So they literally, I bought the Japanese version digitally, and my North American version is a review copy, which didn't come with a case because the cases weren't manufactured yet. The moment discs were pressed, reviewers got them. So they literally sent me a loose disc.
That's pretty canny, to be fair, especially when you got to think it must have all felt a bit low stakes, because it's like this whole platform is just moribund. Exactly. It's nice to see you actually still go out there and execute.
And
on
they
that
sent
level.
over download codes to get the DLC packs that help it load faster.
Oh yeah,
because those weren't up yet, and so they just sent that to me with like 7 weeks before the game came out or something. We're like, we'll even send you the embargo later. Just don't talk about it yet. Just play this fucking game.
Pull every lever to get people playing sooner. Which it's nice considering.
I'm glad that they knew to do that, because this would have been a miserable you have 1 week game.
Yeah, the crunching reviewing that is
All right, Mario vs. Donkey Kong Tipping Stars. We're at game number 7.
So this is a level creation one, is it as well?
Yes, this is
some
a
of the other
level creation game where you tip players that have good levels. It is no longer playable because it was all Miiverse. This is also a game entirely built in HTML5 as a tech demo, as a proof of concept.
Yeah. So I think there was level creation in some previous DK Mario versus DK games, but this, I guess, with the Miiverse, was kind of making it more social, because that was always a problem with creator stuff on DS. So how do we share it? How do we? Sometimes you would have WarioWare DIY where they have the WiiWare channel and they went out of the way, but for a lot of the this is why.
Yes.
Bangayo did the modem noises, because it's like, well, there is no good way to share these things with the infrastructure that isn't there.
Exactly. And so what I will say real fast is, don't get used to this. This is the only time, I think, maybe they did this one other time. I think this is the only time they ever did it. This is an actual cross-buy with Wii U and 3DS. Where you buy one and you get both, and they set that up in the game where literally the eShop would spit out a download code for the other version. or the retail version would come packed in with a code for the other platform.
Yeah, it's tough to know. I didn't really play these beyond the first of this type on DS, as I think which would be by name Mario vs. DK2, where they've started the minis thing. I'd probably go with the 6. I seem to remember a certain amount of warmth for some of these features.
At the same time, do we want to rate number 8, which is also Tipping Stars for 3DS?
Yeah, may as well. Yeah, go straight ahead. Yeah.
All right, it's literally the same game, came out the same day. Amiibo Touch and Play, Nintendo Classics Highlights, which is the worst fucking. Well, no, it's not as bad as. I don't know which name I hate most. This or Amiibo Tap Nintendo's Greatest Bits, which was
greatest bits.
Which was the North American title for this fucking cursed game.
So it just I think I'd mess with this a little bit. You tap an amiibo, it essentially unlocks like a scene of a classic game, and there was like 8. And there was like 8 of them, for each game, and it was just like random. What a particular an amiibo would unlock one scene. And then, like, if you scan that amiibo again, it wouldn't do anything. So it's just like you had to scan another amiibo to
Yes,
unlock
you
another
need to
scene from
own
some
30
game.
amiibo to see all the content in this game.
Yeah,
You
that's what I thought.
Yes, you tap one amiibo, and it doesn't matter if it's like what amiibo it is. Just an
Yeah,
amiibo.
it's not like you have to be a Samus amiibo to unlock Super Metroid scenes
No,
or so. It's like anything.
Yes,
Just random.
you tap an amiibo, and it runs the roulette, and it says Mock Rider, which was a game. Urban Champion was another game, and sometimes you win, and sometimes
only the greatest bits.
yes, and sometimes you fucking lose, and so it's like, all right, we're gonna show you a 30-second. Oh, there was a Mario vs. Donkey Kong game built on Amiibo. We will fucking get there.
Yeah. Yep.
Probably next week. So you tap the Amiibo, and it's like, all right, this is your save state. Play for 60 seconds. And then at the end of it, it's like, all right, tap again. Tap the same Amiibo again. Here's a different save state. Save state number 2. There are 8 save states per game. Play for a minute. All right, do you want to buy the full game on the eShop, or do you want to tap the Amiibo again? Or you want to tap another Amiibo again, go to a retailer, buy another fucking Amiibo, and get a fucking another chance at the roulette to maybe get something like Super Mario Brothers, which will also rip you out of play after 1 minute. What a fucking cursed thing. This and Amiibo Festival are the only, and Mario v DK, which, the Amiibo thing, are the only 3 games that require Amiibo.
Yeah, I forget exactly how the Mario versus DK stuff works. Just because it's particular minis of like characters, and did you have to scan like that? Because you like scan a Yoshi amiibo, and then you got like mini Yoshi or something.
The only way to play as Mario in that Mario versus Donkey Kong game was you had to own a Mario amiibo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Xander
with
points
this,
out, could you imagine getting Ice Climber? Because I know that Xander streamed Ice Climber yesterday.
Nice. No,
it does support amiibo that were released in the Switch era. I do believe it does.
Yeah, I think it just could be anything, right?
Yes,
like,
there is a generic input for, is this an amiibo? Yes, no.
Yeah, that's the thing. There was many fewer amiibo when this first came out, so it was kind of like you would have had to like been just buying them all up to have enough to to unlock all these
30.
things, I guess. Whereas, like, years later, it's more likely that people built up this, without, religiously still bit over the years, built up a bigger, sort of collection that you could use.
As maybe an even bigger fuck you for this, right before you're about to score it, the amiibo cards that came in like packs of multiples, those specifically did not function.
They really should have done. That's pretty bad.
No,
let's
have
give
to
that
buy full figures.
Yeah, that's not great. Let's give that a 4.
Okay, that's
at least there's some fun. It is a bit generous, but I remember at the time some people, maybe this is speaks more about the time. I do remember sometimes people think like, oh, this is actually like something you could do with your amiibo, and it like unlocks bits of Super Metroid. But
no, it's fucking absolutely nasty that they did not let you use the cards, which were affordable. Which were like $6 for 7 cards or something,
and actually numerous at this point when the full figures.
There were 400 different amiibo cards between 2015 to 2016, between 4 series of 100 each.
And the full figures, I mean, they were still kind of working through Smash quite slowly, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there weren't that many out.
Smash wasn't done, and fucking like. I guess you could go get those amiibo. There's Animal Crossing amiibo figures that no one wanted.
Well, that's
get a
true.
bunch of different lotties.
All the lotties.
It's gross. Art Academy Atelier, which is the full version of Art Academy on Wii U, because remember, they fucking dropped everything in 2013 to put out Sketchpad because we were like, oh shit. People like the drawing on the Miiverse. Oh fuck. What can we do?
Yeah, so anything to go away from the 7 that we've kind of been doing our standard on this?
Now the 7 feels right.
Good.
Alright. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D, which was a launch title in North America and Europe for the new 3DS.
Yeah, I guess it was early in the year, was it February, I think it was, and yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good version because obviously, first of all, the American version cleaned up quite a few things from Japan because it came out several months earlier in Japan on N64, but then this kind of cleans up a few more things, kind of less likely to lose progress because of the way the saving works. The bosses,
the Notebook.
The Bomber's Notebook is way better. Just activities and quest lines less opaque. The bosses have been pretty thoroughly revamped and better, to my mind anyway, sort of a bit less aimless than some of them were. I know at the time some people were quite upset with the way the Zora swimming worked because it was different. And even to me, it did feel a little weird to me, even though I hadn't really played Majora's Mask that much in the intervening years. But I kind of got used to it and thought it was okay. But yeah, there was definitely, I remember there was some blowback about the idea that I don't know whether it was something to do with inversion of the stick or, but something was different and people weren't happy. But I mean, in the main, I felt like it was a really kind of really nice version, and much like Ocarina, it was kind of cleaning up a few things, like textures and certain models and stuff, just sort of polishing it up. And it was very much like Ocarina. It didn't do too much with the visuals. I don't think it did anything with the music like Ocarina, but it was just made this game more accessible, more polished. In fact, it's more of an improvement, I think, than Ocarina 3D was. Yeah. So, although arguably had more to improve on because Majora's Mask was just a weirder, game. In that sense, I think I might give it a 9 because I give Ocarina 3D an 8, which is a function of the fact that it is much just the same game. Whereas in this case, I feel like it's a game I loved originally, but it takes some of the things that it wasn't so good at, and it can't completely rewrite them, but it definitely smooths them off. Kind of thing.
GX, I know you're probably using Google image search, but can you check the URLs before you post them in the chat? Gardening Mama 2, Forest Friends, and Cooking Mama, Bon Appetit, which NOE published for some reason.
Yeah, that seems weird because obviously
in
these games have been on other systems before now, but this is the first time we're seeing them show up on an NOE list because they just picked them up. So yeah, never did get the into the Cooking Mama or the baby thing.
Yes. Well, Babysitting Mama was kind of a nightmare. Uh-oh.
Yep. Nope.
There we go.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we was I believe we were about to explain Babysitting Mama until it cut out on
nightmare.
It is a nightmare. It certainly did look like that. But can you offer me any guidance on
Not at all.
Firstly Gardening Mama? No, right. So a 5
for both.
Let's see.
For both this and Cooking Mama, or just for Gardening Mama?
Yeah, I'm just gonna look up. Let's see, because Cooking Mama was kind of fairly kind of long.
It is the flagship.
It is. Yeah,
there is the one that came to Switch where they were advertising it as "this does crypto on your Switch," and then the game got delisted, and some people were like, "Did it get delisted because it was running crypto on your Switch?" And then the answer was, no, it was never running crypto on your Switch. There was a rights issue with the IP, and also the publisher was lying about it running crypto. Which were separate issues.
Oh my god. I don't know, maybe it can have, as the flagship, it can have a 6. And for existing before crypto, well, not actually before, but before it took over, public consciousness anyway.
Yes. Inazuma 11 Go Chrono Stones, Wildfire, and Thunder Flash. You could not convince me that that's like... You could just fucking, like, if you put this on, like, an RFN, is this real or is this fake in Azuma 11? Which I should probably make that quiz.
Yeah,
I would probably get this wrong. I would probably say, yeah, fucking, they're all right.
the Inazuma 11 word salad game. Yeah, I probably safe enough going with 6 again on that, I guess.
Sure.
I don't think it was like a strikers thing where it's like
Yes.
like bad, but nothing to raise the score either.
Yes. Xenoblade Chronicles 3D exclusively for the new 3DS.
Yeah, I didn't play this version, even though I did have a new 3DS. But I guess it seemed to be one of those things where it's like, in some ways, kind of admirable what they did to get it on there, but equally not really the way to play Xenoblade.
Yes.
That's where I was kind of left with it. So maybe a 7 for that. It's kind of difficult because it's still, I'm sure, even in the somewhat compromised state, just the wonderful, incredible game that Xenoblade is. But especially it's the grandeur is so important to that game. I have to believe that the compromise is significant.
The foliage and the draw distance and the geography there is definitely reduced.
Yeah.
The faces, though, are pretty much the same as the Wii version. Because there were no problems with getting that on 3DS. Puzzle and Dragons Z in Europe, plus Super Mario Brothers Edition.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Puzzle and Dragons was big at this point, and
this is too much game.
Yeah, and yes, it is basically like 2 games. Like,
because in Japan, these are both full retail games.
They were, yeah. So I guess they were coming to it a little bit late with the localization, and just like, here you go, have it all. Like,
no, it was more. Puzzle and Dragons is like the biggest game in the world in Japan.
Yeah,
but it's not very big in the West. We're doing this Mario collaboration that we want to release globally. We'll publish that. We don't think it's gonna justify a retail price. Let's just grab this other one.
Right. Bundle it up, and I think it's a certain amount of kind of positive response to this.
That was great.
I would say it's probably a 7 for this. Is kind of the impression that I didn't try it. But
yes, the best part about this is that everyone. There is no consensus as to which of the 2 games is the good one and which one is the worthless one, but everyone agrees one of them is good and one of them is worthless.
Well, there you go. It's a nice hedge that they managed to create there.
Puzzle and Dragons Z is kind of a generic RPG that is like 100 hours long, where you're doing this puzzle. And Super Mario Brothers Edition doesn't have any story, and it's kind of just a linear choose level. And it's like 60 hours long. And it's really good.
It's just like one of those financial instruments that's they're meant to protect you from any loss, really.
Yeah. Alright. Code name Steam. Strike Team eliminating the alien Menace.
Yeah, I did. I got this. It was late in Europe. It was definitely a few months later.
Was. You got the patch version.
Yeah.
You sure did not get our launch version, which was rough.
So I had it in its amended state and on new 3DS, which made even more so that you could fast forward it even more, further, couldn't you? Yeah.
And you got access to the right stick. Or the right nub. And there was another thing that was in the patch. The primary thing was the fast forward. There were balance changes because, hey, it fucking sucks when you are aiming, you have a headshot, and then you fire and you miss because the character was just in a different part of their animation cycle.
Yeah. It seemed like it was a few things that needed to be ironed out. Definitely just the pace of having them watch the enemies play out their moves and all that was the big thing.
But when you can't see them, so that you're not actually watching.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it's like it's happening. Like the computer is the 3DS itself is like running, the move for it, but it's just this thing that is sort of obscured from your vision. Yeah, so it definitely, yeah, it's still in the form I played it in, like not the most polished product in the world, but it definitely seemed like that extra bit of time, especially to take advantage of new 3DS and make it even faster, like with fast forwarding through the enemy moves and all that. It helped. I think it must have helped quite a bit. So yeah, that was sort of advantageous for me, and it was just kind of nice to play on the new 3DS and sort of have something that because I got it at the. I mean, for me, it's either a 7 or an 8 because I quite like it. There are some kind of level design. Sometimes it kind of relies a little bit on a sort of crutch of just like spawn the expectation that enemies are going to spawn behind you at some point. So it's just like, okay, I'm going to act like I need to keep moving because it's probably going to spawn some more enemies at some point, kind of thing. Like it felt like a bit of a crude sort of crutch to sort of say, okay, we want to make people not just like really slowly and painfully, carefully kind of solve these levels because then it's too easy and it's probably not that much fun with how long it takes to play out. I just feel like maybe they could have come up with something a bit better, kind of to achieve that result of like feeling like you needed to keep your party moving. So it kind of felt a little bit like it could have been a sort of interesting first draft for a game in this kind of style for them. But of course, it bombed.
It bombed so hard. It is not every day that you see a flagship new IP from Intelligent Systems for $3 in a Walmart discount bin near the checkout.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's exactly. I mean, the way it got featured at E3 the year that they first showed it and everything. I mean, it's sad because I think it's a game of pretty significant merit, and sometimes when you make something, your developer branches out a bit, makes something. I mean, it's not going to be like perfectly polished at first, but obviously in this case, the commercial returns were just nowhere near anything that would validate taking it further, but I'll go with 7. I think it's I could in some ways I enjoyed it more than that, but I think it's about right for overall.
Okay. Fossil Fighters Frontier.
Yeah, I never played because there was multiple Fossil Fighters games on DS as well.
I don't think that one came out to Europe, so this is the first one.
No, I don't think it did.
This is the second game to come out, the first to come out in Europe. I really like this one.
Yeah, I did. I could have like imported the DS game because obviously that was before the region lock, but I didn't have that or this. So yeah,
games are like, look, I have this weird reputation of like finds the weird Nintendo games, or like the ones people aren't talking about, and I'm not talking about Devil's Third. I'm talking about like Style Savvy.
This is weird. Is not really the word for Devil's Third. I mean, it's a word for it, but it's not the word.
Yes, no. I would call this like a perfectly serviceable 7. It is aimed at younger children. It has Pokemon style collecting and battling and adventuring, but like again, it's kind of aimed at kids who think that dinosaurs are the coolest shit ever. But it's really competent.
Yeah. Which, I mean, God, like, how this didn't happen in I guess, because Pokemon hadn't happened yet in the sort of the 90s Dino Mania.
Exactly.
Like, you just kind of feel there's an alternate universe where, like, Fossil Fighters is Pokemon in the 90s, or a game like it, like, would have been huge. But, yeah, 7 sounds about right, based on what I can remember of it, and the fact that you've got direct experience, that's more than good enough for me.
Awesome. Do you need to go, or do you have?
Well, we'll give it 5 more minutes, and I think we should be able to get close to the 3DS retail being wrapped up.
Well, we'll have to speed run, but we'll do it. LBX Little Battlers Experience.
Yes, this is level 5 again.
Sure is.
I believe James talked about this a bit. I don't really have much
It's
knowledge of it
mediocre.
myself, so it's just a kind of another level 5 thing,
Another
and
level 5 thing is the most easy way to explain this.
I think maybe a 6 for that.
Okay? Animal Crossing Happy Home Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer.
Yep. So yeah, this is the other sort of prong of Animal Crossing product in the absence of
Yes.
like actually doing another game. That certainly seemed, from my point of view, a fair bit better received than the board game. But that is the lowest
But it
bar
has a low
imaginable.
bar.
That is
Yes.
so low. It's
So
barely a bar at
yes.
all.
This is a game where it's okay. Now there's an elephant in the room, which is the Switch DLC.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so for the Switch DLC, what I'll say is that this concept works so much better as part of a bigger game.
Hmm.
One, Happy Home Designer is more expensive than New Leaf, and was when it launched. And I'm not talking like New Leaf became a Nintendo Selects. This was $40 and New Leaf was $35 in the US.
Wow.
Two, the the thing that this got most well received for is it had a new method of rearranging furniture via the touchscreen instead of literally walking up to the furniture and grabbing it and dragging it.
Yeah.
So they just patched that into the 3DS game. Into New Leaf.
Again, it's that one mini game from New
Yeah, let's
Horizons.
just take the only things people like about these two products and put it back in the game people play.
Yeah.
This one sold pretty well. Because it's a 3DS Animal Crossing game, but I wouldn't call it a good one.
So where do you think? Where would you land on this?
Like a 4, maybe.
Fair enough. No, that's good enough for me.
All right. Speaking of weirdly received games from this year, The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes 2015 really is a fucking cursed year.
Yeah,
Like, what
it's
is
a
going
lot
on
of
with this year?
there's a lot of just it feels like Nintendo's kind of spinning its wheels a bit while it's recalibrating its strategy
The
to,
Switch is in full development.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
Um,
The Switch is really what's happening at Nintendo, and then it's like, okay, what do we do to kind of keep the lights on in the interim, And
yes, like what are short development games that can enter production? This is also, of course, the year that Iwata passed away. Not that that would impact the 2015 slate.
no, but the broader psychology of the year is
Yes.
certainly a very difficult
Because everyone probably
period.
just wants to wrap the project they're on. So,
It's with this, and of course, there's again, we've got stuff like Federation Force, and there's a number of these games that with this sort of emphasis on co-op that they sort of pushed at this time. That the 3DS infrastructure was not ideally sort of capable of
oh,
delivering.
you don't like the pom pom emote as the primary
Oh
means of
yeah,
communication?
I mean, I will forever have memories of the pump of just like when you finally do something and then there's just a victorious chorus of pom-pomming that
Yes.
would accrue from that. At its best moments, this was actually really, really entertaining.
In
Like
the
I
same way
think,
that Four Swords was.
yeah, I think so. But I never had the pleasure of actually playing a Four Swords game like Four Swords Adventures back in the day. I did get to play the DSi one with
Yeah.
a friend, but never the full sort of
Yeah.
force of it. So the fact that this was online and therefore, I could play with other, with the full 3-party, kind of was nice in that sense. But obviously communicating and coordinating, it's tough with random people.
It sure
You've
is.
just got these emotes and
And then
stuff,
it's
and
like, no, it's a loot game. You're meant to keep rerunning the same thing over and over. And
yeah,
I'm like,
that's.
no,
and,
no.
and then also the I think I played Four Swords Adventures on GameCube like single player, and I think that worked way better as a single player than this does.
Oh, this is a bad single
The
player.
first, it's so after thought. It's so like, I guess because it is online, it's more, well, no, well, why would you just get on there with random people or whatever? So I think it just less thought went into how it would
Yes.
work as a single player thing. It's not like it doesn't work at all, but it's not the way to play. But then play with, if you had an ideal use case where you kind of actually getting couple people and you're on online online with voice chat, like I can imagine it being like really fun at times, and there's some really great music and some cool ideas and bosses and stuff. But yeah, it's tough to balance all that. I think I'd go with a 6 on that.
Okay. My favorite part of that E3 presentation was, I don't know, we tried having 4 characters, but then when they stacked on top of each other, they were too tall for the screen. So it's 3.
The totem is it's a fun thing, but
Yes.
it definitely respect with random people who couldn't properly communicate had the high potential for farce to ensue very often.
Yes. All right, we will rejoin next week with Chibi Robo Ziplash. Nintendo presents New Style Boutique 2 Fashion Forward, which is Style Boutique 3. Of
Yes.
course. And then a large collection of Nintendo fucking around and finding out with free to play as a concept. Because Europe didn't get Rusty's Real Deal Baseball.
That's true,
Which
yeah.
means that you kind of just go from Steel Diver Sub Wars into here's Pokemon Shuffle and Pokemon Rumble World and Full Blocks and Nintendo Badge Arcade and Pokemon Picross all back to back to back to back.
No, it's true. I guess it's kind of it's just the flip side of America not getting culture a bit, but in terms of the free to play thing with Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, we missed out on an interesting experiment.
Very interesting experiment. Yes, we'll get there next week. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Very good. Thanks. Bye bye.